For the last 1 month, I do not allow my clients to walk into their own project. They cannot walk into their own project. You can ask clients we've had fights about it.
You're watching Hustler Stories with Deepika Anand. My guest today is Vinita Chaitanya. She's an interior designer and an Instagram influencer. Thank you for your time, Vinita.
Thank you for having me, Ambika, and I'm so happy to be here.
So am I. Tell our audience, what does the term hustler mean to you?
Hustler means, somebody who knows what he wants and does anything to get where or what he wants to.
So tell me, how did it all begin for you as an interior designer? Is this something you always wanted to do? Are you a Bangalore girl? And how did it come into your...
I got into it after doing my Bachelor of Arts. I did economics and literature and completed my Bachelor of Arts and moved to Calcutta, where my father was those days. And out of nothing else to do, I dabbled in advertising because I knew I wanted to do something creative. Advertising was a fun thing to do, fun people, interesting, everything. And then when I moved to Calcutta, I found the interior design course bang next to the hotel we were staying in. We were staying in a hotel called the Kenilworth. And I said, let me just join it. Gives me something to think and do until I find what I'm really good at. And when I joined it, it was a diploma. The Oberoi hotels were looking for interns. And I applied and I got in. And then it's just took off from there. I got into the design department at the Oberoi.
Wow.
It was crazy. So yes, I got in from there. And then I worked with them for 4 years. Interned, then I did, I was in their design section for a while. I worked under Chandu Chadda with a fabulous designer, Rita Huben. Had the most incredible experiences with Sunita Kohli, almost as her coffee butler at Bhubaneswar. Like, she would be coming in and we'd have to carry her little coffee table books and put her near her couch, and she would do those research things, for every project she did. It's all ingrained.
Wow.
And then I started my own firm in '88 after I got married in Bangalore.
Okay. And then what was your first project? Who was your first client, and how did that happen?
Okay, that's another story. You're into many stories today, okay? So my father-in-law worked with Vittal Mallya, and Vijay had come for our wedding. And we came back to Bangalore, and I told my husband that I'm going to take a sabbatical for 6 months, and I wanted to take a sabbatical for 6 months. But on, I think, almost a week after we got married, and we were at my father-in-law's home, and Vijay walked in, and he had come for our wedding. And he said, in his booming voice, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "No, I'm taking a sabbatical. I was doing this." And he said, "You got to be joking. There's this big office which we're doing in the middle heart of Bangalore. There are already 6 people pitching for it. Meet X, Y, Z and see if you can do it. Start your own company tomorrow, and if you can pitch for it, go for it."
Wow.
So we literally did that. I had friends over beers. We decided to call the company Prism. I had to do a letterhead, make a proposal, and there were 3 of us who got the project in various parts, and I was one of the 3. So I did the McDowell's project as my first project. Actually, very soon after that, and what really catapulted me was meeting Bhai Aljit Singh. And he had he had a company called Dove Corporation those days, and they didn't know it was a year after my wedding, and I had just gotten pregnant, and nobody knew I was pregnant. And I went for this interview because they were doing multiple offices, and there was one coming up in Bangalore, and they asked me to come and see them, and I got the job. And then from Dove Corporation, it went into paging, and then it went into Max India, and then went to Hutchison, and then Vodafone. So honestly, I think personally I've done the most amount of square footage in telecom, and from the days from paging to phones.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was like a huge thing. So I worked with Max for till Hutchison, Voda, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and then after that, yeah, I started doing guest houses and then moved completely into homes, which is now my niche.
So take us through what you regard as your biggest achievement.
I think one of the biggest achievements is being a young mother and doing 7 paging offices throughout India with your baby in tow, with no nanny, no support. Carpenters were looking after her. And I even went to, I remember there was plague in Baroda, and I was there during plague without realizing it. It was just work, and then you go, you do your work, you get back, you're with your child, and you come back. So as a mom and balancing everything around me, I think, and without all the help you have today, I think that was amazing to pull through all that.
Tell us about what do you mean by creating livable art?
For me, it's almost like being an artist in a space. So you're visualizing not only the entire surrounding, not just the ceiling and the floor and the walls and the drapes and soft furnishings. You know how many layers, and I keep talking about layers, but there are multiple layers in our spaces, and I think putting them all together, bringing them to life, and then the client coming in and saying, "Oh my God, this is better than I dreamed of," is for me that's a creation.
As you grew your business and over the years as the industry has developed, what are some of the challenges that you've overcome?
I didn't find anything too difficult or too problematic. Dealing with clients in a service industry is the toughie. You meet all sorts of people, and you kind of bend backwards in your younger days to kind of perform and achieve and live up to that expectation. So yes, but I honestly don't remember anything difficult.
Okay, great. No, in the sense now that the world is so much easier,
Yes.
to access.
Yes.
Let's say a wallpaper or a marble or a particular stone. Is in that sense,
So
is
in that,
it
yes,
easier?
yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Because materials, yes, technology, yes. We used to draw with our hand, and
Yeah.
I still remember drawing with I can still only draw with my hand. My office takes care of everything
Yeah.
else, but it's so much simpler. I mean, you talk about it, and 2 minutes later, it's on the computer or like on your screen, and 5 minutes later, it's with the client. And what the hell, we never had those advantages at all. Yeah.
What was a specific instance or moment when you took a risk against general opinion and you came on top?
For me, doing things on a large scale is what I love, and many a time I've done projects, and I've done art, and I've done fabrics and stuff like that, which nobody would have visualized or imagined. My idea of color, for example, and putting colors together, and making it work in my own head before it works everywhere else. Sometimes clients are like, "No, it can't happen. It's just not possible." And I'm like, so my mantra, and what I tell my clients is, let me be. For the last 1 month, I do not allow my clients to walk into their own project. They cannot walk into their own project. You can ask clients about it. We've had fights about it. But when I complete the project, I need my own space.
Yes.
And when you walk in, and then you see what I've done, and most of the time I wouldn't have told you like 20 things of what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
But that's the magic. So yeah, I think I take risks. Calculated in my head, may not be calculated in the client's head. but I take huge risks and they've paid off. So one time I can tell you, I mean, this is a fun episode as well. I was completing this house. The client had given me carte blanche in terms of completion, and we had to finish in a particular time. And I was in Harrods and we were shopping, and I don't know if you know, but Harrods has something called the penthouse suite. And only if you're a big time shopper, and I'm talking at least 11 years ago, only if you're a big time shopper, you're taken to that penthouse suite. So you're taken to the penthouse suite, and then they have multiple rooms, and of course champagne and macaroons and so on and so forth. But when you're shopping in London, and you remember you had to fill out those forms and get that tax refund, and so everything comes to your table. And I said I wanted to go to the art gallery, and I went to the art gallery and I saw Salvador Dali.
Wow.
And I'm like, I love this piece. And I asked the lady in charge, I said, how much is it? And she gave me that figure. And I said, are you sure? And I'm really serious about buying it. So even before I spoke to my client, I'm already talking to this lady, and I'm like, okay, it's X. But for me, numbers don't matter, you know. It's just like, okay, numbers are this big haze, but the piece is important. So I said, I'm going to buy it. And so she started coming down, and I never realized in Harrods, you could even bargain, because those days, like, I would never bargain. You walk into a store and you're like, you're not going to bargain. And she came down 10%, which was like a lot of money. And then she came down 20%. And I said, okay, send me this figure on my phone. And then I went back and I told the client, look, I think this is a gorgeous piece. It's this much right now, but if you're serious about it, we'll talk to her through the night and let's see what she does by tomorrow morning. Are you okay with that? And he said, go for it.
Wow.
We didn't buy one, we bought two.
Really? And did they come back to 50%?
They came down to almost 30%, which was loads of money.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Loads of money, and I cannot even tell you how we brought it back. I don't want to reveal the secret.
How do you describe your approach to design, and what do you feel is your unique signature and your USP?
My approach to design is literally the client's brief. So if you are my client and you say, no, Vinita, if you say do what you want, I still need to know what is your persona and what is your family like, and you know what excites you and what doesn't, and so on and so forth. So I obviously spend that much time with you, and then sort of develop an Ambika home. And when I'm developing that Ambika home, Vinita's styling will come in through. But I always say every single project is unique to the client. So I've done diverse projects. I have done genres starting from, you know, earlier days, everybody would be that whole European, you know, those villas or haciendas and so on and so forth. And then very slowly, and to my good luck and pleasant, well, I've been kind of pushing clients towards India modern and, you know, made in India and India proud. And while
It sounds a bit like a Sabyasachi story. Is that the tone?
Not at all. So, but while I do that, I still realize that in a room, if we've got 100% product and I'm not able to give you the quality which, let's say, an Italian couch manufacturer or you know, Brit guy who does the upholstery can give you, I will still guide you towards the best. But if I feel that in India, a trunk company can give you something as beautiful as something from France, I will say, look at this. So for me, it's that beautiful balance. What excites me is, even if I go back to a home which is done, actually I was with a client friend day before yesterday, and she said we did her home 15 years ago and she still feels it's fresh. And she's, you know, so those timeless homes, I think for me, are my USP.
How do you draw your inspiration, and how do you walk the line between your knowledge and aesthetic and what a client wants and demands?
My inspiration is from everywhere. A lot of it from my travel, but I look at things differently, I feel. Nature is a huge inspiration, and post-lockdown and post-COVID, it's even bigger. Always was fond of the outdoors, but I think between reading, and I don't read books. I don't read heavy books. I stopped reading heavy books when I just didn't have the time, honestly. But I used to, and I love flicking through dozens of magazines, from politics to, from current affairs, let me say, to design, to fashion, love fashion. So fashion is another big inspiration for me. And colors and designs are kind of between decor and fashion. Always there's a mingling of it.
What's the biggest mistake that people make in this field?
Trying to do too much, honestly. I think what happens is clients dream, right? So you may have, and today you have a Pinterest board or whatever it is. So you might bring me a big file, but for me to wade through it and to say, look, this is a beautiful style which works for you, and for me to guide you properly and say that this is your space and this is what can work for you. Obviously, if you want something which is, let me say, too OTT or too which is just not your vibe or your style, and I'm still going to say yes to it, it's going to be stupid, because at the end you're not going to be living in it. And while I know there are designers who say, no, this is not what I'm going to do, this is not what I do, I don't say that ever. I say that each client to their own. I will bring in the Vinita aesthetic. Today, or even in the past 10 years, I just kind of say no to jobs where I can't do it.
Now, you mentor and you teach as well. What have you gained from experience, and what are the key lessons you teach with regard to your craft and the business of design?
I always tell them to look at India and just kind of imbibe an India story, or even imbibe an Indian language. I personally want to do an entire project with what I think is the India language in my own sphere, and I may not know it all. I still feel I learn every day, but yeah, I feel if they can really look back into, so you see today on social media, you see an entire genre of design. You see design from everywhere, but you also see a very beautiful, very small segment of designers who actually work with local and who develop local for the international market. And that means the finesse and the finishing and the design. And I think that is brilliant. I mean, a lot of my friends are doing that, and I'm like, kudos, I would, for me, I support them as much as I can.
Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, you're most welcome. I enjoyed it.
And thank you for watching Hustlr Stories. See you soon.